I think the meta has shifted a lot. It's not about, like, for a top lane example, it's not about winning your lane. It's more like who can make the best TP plays and which team is the most decisive in shot calls. Because that's like one bit we're struggling a lot in, just like shot call dedication and stuff. Like in this meta, it's more like lane swap and stuff, and like mid lane can't influence it as much. So I feel like we're losing some games just like before I can do something in the game, you know?
Welcome back. I'm joined here at the analyst desk by Rockat's coach Yamato Cannon, Coach Yamato Cannon, as we look at our next clash between Gambit and SK Gaming. You must be a pretty happy coach right now, beating out Origin, their very first loss of the season.
I'm okay. Obviously, I'm super happy. Like, we were obviously the underdogs, so obviously I'm happy.
Yeah, I can be very proud of your team. Here, though, we're going to be focusing on Gambit versus SK, starting off with Gambit and their starters, Cabo Shard, Diamond Prox, Betsy, Forgiven, Gosu Pepper, and their coach, Sean's. So Gambit actually also picked up their very first win of the season. That was yesterday versus the Copenhagen Wolves. And, well, a win is a win, but it was quite slow, and they still have a lot to work on.
I think this kind of a game really highlights the weaknesses of the team. I think Gambit as a team is playing more of like a solo queue style. The map is very, very separated, and I think the win, even though it was a win, they should be happy, but the weaknesses were clearly exposed.
Yeah, you actually hit the nail on the head, because it's Forgiven in the post-game interview also said, I don't feel like we're a team. How much or how hard is it for a team like Gambit to adapt like to a player like Forgiven, and how much is stemming from that?
To be honest, I don't think Forgiven is a problem. I think he's still contributing to the team. He's doing okay in the games, not as good as in SK, but like there's like this clear divide in the map where the jungler, Diamond Prox, only focuses on Cabo Shard. They try to get an advantage through that, but usually they pick very bad picks in terms of team comps just to create that advantage. Like example, against us, they picked the Volibear and the Jax. These two picks don't scale well into the game, and that's the kind of thing a team with only subs would do.
Oh, okay. So you feel like the picks reflect something a sub-team would do, something we see coming up a lot, as you mentioned, the top lane as well. Gragas for Cabo Shard time and time again. What do you make of that then?
Like the Gragas would have made sense to me if they also locked in the Rek'Sai. Simply because it's the two best jungler picks, and they had the opportunity to basically cut off that leg for the enemy team. So like picking Gragas without picking Rek'Sai made absolutely no sense to me.
All right, so they do have the new coach coming in. You would expect that it goes better, so we'll see what comes out of the draft of them in this one. They are up against SK Gaming, and they are on the red side for this one with Freddy122, Sven Skaren, Fox, Candy Panda, and Rated, and their coach, Lucas Schenke. So yesterday, SK Gaming had a game versus H2K where they actually put up a pretty good fight. They pushed them to the limits, and they had a lead of 76 gold at 15 minutes, and usually H2K is very far ahead at that point, so definitely some upsides there for them.
It feels like SK, it's like the kind of SK I kind of recognized back in the days, but simply where the 2v2 top lane is dominating on the map. Something we saw, like, for example, at Worlds, where they played around the top lane and they had good impact on the map. But I feel like, especially in mid lane, Fox is lacking simply because the playstyle is so different from what they had last split, where he could play very aggressive, push all the time, but now he's getting punished. Before he wasn't punished.
Yeah, they actually named that themselves, saying, I think it was in the press conference, that when they played with Forgiven, he imposed his style up on us. Now Candy Panda is back, but we can't just go back to the style that we used to play. And I feel like Candy Panda lineup maybe is feeling quite pressured. Yesterday, he went for his Vayne. It went good in the early game, but then after, you just have to carry, and you don't have something to fall back on. It won't always work out, especially on Vayne.
It's like in that game, Vayne has, like in that game specifically, Vayne only has strengths in the early game, because Rumble is very strong and Sivir is outscaling her simply because of the items Vayne builds. They have strength in the early game, but they weren't really capitalizing on it.
Yeah, you say a lot will come down to the 2v2 top, or the top and the jungle synergy. Yesterday, Freddy was actually looking a lot better on Mundo, soaking up a lot of damage. It is something that he played at Worlds so much as well. And Sven on Rek'Sai is definitely something I like to see more than some of the other picks he did.
I think the advantage is simply to SK simply because of the champion pool SK has in terms of jungle. I think Diamond Prox champion pool in the jungle zone is very lacking because he's starting to play things like Volibear. We haven't seen him on Gragas or something like that. And with that in mind, I think the edge is going to go to SK unless Gambit start banning out some of those junglers.
It's quite interesting to me because Gambit and SK were two teams that we were looking at before this week as having a little bit of problems in picks and bans. And yesterday there was a Janna coming out a second pick as well. We didn't know, but you do give it to SK.
I have to lean towards SK, but I think the question is how much can Forgiven do down bottom while the 2v2 top lane is happening, because that's what I'm assuming going to happen. Simply because Svenskeren did so well yesterday together with Freddy, I think that's going to be the general game plan of SK coming into this one.
All right, well, we will see what happens. The stage is set, so let's shoot it over to the caster desk for picks and bans.
Thank you very much, Shux and Yamato Cannon. I've moved over to the caster desk to join Crepo for the last 2 games of the day. Gambit versus SK. Gambit already have a win from yesterday, 1-4, 1-5, 1-4. SK, on the other hand, 0-5. Both of these teams struggling in the early game, and Gambit, despite the win, it was not particularly pretty.
It wasn't pretty. Something I just want to look out for today is how well does SK know Forgiven, and how well does Forgiven knows SK? You know, who learned more about that swap? You know, the tendencies that SK have. Yes, they play in a different style right now, but does Forgiven know how to, exploit that? Is he gonna show up big, or has SK scrimmed and played so much with Forgiven that they know exactly how to shut him down?
I think that's a great question when you consider how well Fnatic turned around their mid-game against Elements and just how well Reckless performed after joining Fnatic. We'll find out shortly. As Gambit are on the blue side, they've taken away LeBlanc from Fox and Maokai from Freddy. Ryze has gone off. We know junglers are still available here. Gragas is up, Rek'Sai is up. But for Forgiven, which AD carry is he going to play? 5 different champions, 5 different games. Played Corki, played Sivir, played
We're
Ashe.
waiting for the Graves.
Is Graves next? Is it a,
Draven?
roll a champion roulette dial and find one that'll help pick up a win, or is it strategy?
The Russian roulette. Almost, because it hasn't really been working too much. He's playing with a lot of Russians. Get it?
I got it. I got it. Thanks for explaining it, though.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, let's get into this game. But yeah, you said it. LeBlanc, Maokai came out. Pretty stable bans against SK Gaming. Ryze is out of the equation, rather. Alistar's still up. Really solid support pick. Seen both these supports play it.
As is Gragas. If Gambit first pick it, you don't know if it's jungle or top.
Yeah, Gambit might try and do that strategy again, where they take both junglers, but I almost feel like it's better on second rotation for them. Just lock in something priority here, and then force SK to at least take one of the junglers themselves. I guess which they'll happily do so, but there's no point in picking one, because any coach worth their salt will have known that Gambit will likely, take away the next one then in the next rotation. So you sacrifice your first pick just to trade a tier 1 jungler.
Well, we'll find out what they decide on. Already mentioned the Alistar's up and available, as is Echo, which we have seen in every single game, banned or picked. And actually has been picked very early on in most cases.
Rek'Sai coming out, so SK Gaming almost has to react with a Gragas here. But what is next? Alistar, as we said earlier. So, draft going well for SK, I feel. If you're not forced in the position where you have to give it more than you can claim, these double first rotation, then you're happy. You can build pretty much any composition with this, You can look at the likes of Sivir for your AD carry. You have Peel if you want to go crazy and run Vayne. You have All-In if you want to get Kalista. Anything works.
We have to touch on the fact Candy Panda's Vayne yesterday dealt less damage than Freddy's Mundo. Let's be very fair and give some credit to Kasing and Ryu for jumping onto either Fox or Candy.
Yeah, Ryu was fantastic that game.
Fight. So you can't put all the blame on Candy Panda's shoulders, but you do have to highlight the fact that the carry of SK was unable to carry. Let's see if they can fix their problems. Gambit, 30 seconds left. We've seen the junglers, we've seen the support. Nothing has been revealed by either team yet.
I mean, Spring Split Forgiven would have installed Pollution here. No hesitation. Yesterday he went for the Corki. More of a poke-centric build. Seems to want to repeat that. Open up the map for Diamondprox to assist Cabochard. Back to the old Gambit. You can't have the jungler play around 2 carries and protect them and leverage that. And then the Lugu, which is a flex pick for Gambit Gaming. But you can play it mid. There's no LeBlanc to deny though.
Well, not this time around. So I think Gambit have done the flex picks a little more than most teams in the last couple of weeks. To better or worse, you can argue, but we'll need to see where they put this Lulu.
And historically they have too. I think they were one of the first teams to draft that early Morgana and then swap it top lane for Cabochard. So flex picks to their advantage, sometimes to disadvantage with that crazy, let's not play Gragas jungle, but Volibear instead. Still a possibility. Rek'Sai has been played in the top lane over in China. Might see
Flex
that
picks all around. We're
dancing
getting,
Russian bear here, but I doubt it.
getting excited, but a lot of time to
Shyvana.
go. Instead, we will see Freddy, I believe, going back to another old school champion. It's just comfort picks, right? Mundo yesterday, Shyvana today. Freddy has to dig very deep in the current meta.
He's just going back in time, you know. When were we doing well? Oh, we were at Worlds, weren't we? Yeah, I played a lot of Shyvana, played a lot of Mundo. Oh, let's just play those champions again. SK said it, we want to go back to the SK of old. Back to Candy Panda. He picked up Kalista here. Kalista Alistar is a very strong combo. So much CC. Again, if you do Fate's Call and you throw in the Alistar, he will no longer get, he won't get bounced backwards like we saw earlier in the game with the Morgana. He'll land straight on top of his enemy, knock him up, pulverize, headbutt backwards. Gives enough time for Kalista to do a whole lot of damage.
And Candy Panda's Kalista is pretty decent as well. KDA is not too much to write home about a 3, however, we'll touch on that in a second. 80% kill participation for Kalista. Gosu Pepper is also going back in time, and he's going with the manly support.
Fabulous. Yeah, I'm just gonna let that breathe for a moment.
So, Tarek roaming Gosu Pepper, let's expect that. We've got wave clear from Corki, from Lulu. We know that'll be mid lane now. This Cabo Shot's got his Hecarim top.
Are we actually seeing a Tarek here? I don't know.
It's locked in. It's locked in. As a former support player in the current patch 5.10, what do you think of Tarek?
Now, I'll open this statement with that I haven't played enough solo queue as of late to really judge the worth of the mighty Gem Warrior. He might shatter my dreams like he shatters his enemies, but I don't know, man. I guess it's targeted lockdown for Kalista, so she can hop around all she wants. Eventually, she'll get stunned. And then the Phosphorus Bomb will land and the rockets will poke in. What then?
Well, then hopefully a pony will trample all over SK's dreams. Gambit 1 and 4, as we said. SK 0 and 5. They round out the composition with a scaling Vladimir. I really feel like this is all mid to late game on the side of SK. And for Gambit, I think they can pull the trigger a whole lot earlier. We'll see whether or not they can aim their Tarek Corki combination in the right direction.
You say they can aim it earlier? I feel they almost have to close out the game earlier because the scaling on SK Gaming is absolutely insane. In terms of both solo laners, Vladimir in the mid lane for Fox. Becomes quite a monster late game. Shyvana too. Kalista's early game though. If she gets snowballing, yes, then she has mid to late game, but she needs to get a couple of kills. And Tarek. I was waiting for the possible mid lane Tarek and Lulu support, but Gambit didn't get me this time. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep my eyes on Gosu Pepper and watch out how fabulous he really is, Trevor.
Well, we'll see. If either Gambit or SK have to keep digging back in time, we might get the Muse Sona skin for Gosu Pepper for
flashbacks.
Those, yes, for those historians that have seen that Photoshop. I strongly suggest you look it up. Guys, there's these team comps. Will be flashing on your screen at LOL Esports. Will Gambit be picking up their second win, or will SK be grabbing their first of the summer split? Hashtag GMB win, hashtag SK win.
Truly.
Thank you for the signs in the audience. Just caught a glimpse of those. Gambit versus SK with the Gem Knights for the first time in summer.
A real proper Gem Knight would have ran Ignite. Go on the offense and the crowd is supporting Gambit. They love themselves some gems. But they are truly outrageous.
I'm not sure he's picked the right skin though, and we'll see how quickly Gosu can find his way in.
We have to invade. There's no other way.
Why is
Gem
that?
Knight.
You are the Gem Knight.
If there's any flag bearer you want to follow into the fray, it is that fantastic Gosu Pepper.
And he's already put a point into Shatter. W of Tarek. Keep your eyes on that. Advantage Gambit. They've got
one
awards.
CS lead, two CS lead.
Game changing.
Gambit coming out swinging. They haven't spotted by the ward though.
And it seems to be a mirrored invade on the other side. Take a look at the Kalista stats as we can see the wards being placed down. This is what we're talking about leading into the game. A higher kill participation than the league average for Candy Panda's Kalista.
Now you touched upon this earlier and you said, hey, is KDA 3.0? Not quite impressive, but going back, I distinctly remember Candy Panda at one point being 5-0-2 on Kalista. Another game being 2-0-1 on Kalista. So he does get these leads. But SK, they don't manage to capitalize on that, or Candy Panda himself doesn't manage to snowball that lead. Will it be a return, or a repetition rather, of that advantage in the early game?
So we'll have to find out. We do see the lanes appear to be standard, or at least they should be. You can see Cabo Shard, he's gone Ignite Teleport, not Smite, in the jungle. And we can also see Freddy starting at the Raptor camp.
So we've seen the small golem first. Again, mid-pick. Back to the Grump though. What you can do with Alistar is you can start Headbutt and knock that Grump closer to your lane, finish it, and then act as if you have Pulverize. People will always respect the Pulverize. Just never use them. Never show them that you actually have a Headbutt instead. And skill heal, you're still afraid, and then randomly you knock the AD carry away from his siege creep and you have a mental advantage. The Art of War translates into gold, into the Art of Warding. Support very complex role. You still don't know what you're gonna main supports, what you have to do, because you can also play fabulous supports like Tarek.
Well, Crepo Tsunsu dropping the knowledge bombs as we do see Gosu Pepper with that relic shield. The very first Tarek all year between Europe and North America. And we'll see how well this point and click stun actually works.
I can see it because especially playing other melee supports into Alistar usually goes well because he can't punish you that hard. And then you have some zone on Candy Panda. He can dodge most skill shots, but he can't dodge the stun coming out of from Pepper.
Well, point and click, it definitely makes life easier. Gosu Pepper zoning away in Rated and Candy Panda. Being denied a lot of CS, 16-3. However, you can see that wave building up. So Candy will get the opportunity to kill a few of them as we catch a glimpse of Betsy putting the hammer down on Fox.
Fox, you may have sustained, but
ooh,
a lot of damage. Diamond Prox prowling about. Sanguine Pool is ready and prompted though.
Well, gonna come over the wall. Fox doesn't actually not get caught by the knockup. Diamond is just gonna slide his way away.
Always so anticlimactic, right?
Well,
Goes
not
in for
always.
the tunnel and then a pool.
See, not always. Look at this now. FLICKR is gonna find himself behind Forgiven and Gosu Pepper. There is a Valkyrie available. Let's see what happens. That's the flash into the Pulverize. Headbutts Forgiven backwards. Enrated pushes Forgiven onto the wrong side of the map. Candy Panda tries to follow with a flash, but it does not work out. And FLICKR, he wants to set his sight on the Earth Rider. He's going to find himself on Gosu Pepper. Prey Seeker comes out. Dazzle is stunned, follows up with the Summoner Heal. Now Forgiven is putting those missiles down. Enrated and FLICKR are in trouble.
Yeah.
Enrated goes down. First blood to Forgiven. Gambit with the outplay.
I'm not so sure, Trev. They engage and they put Forgiving in a position where he still has Valkyrie. There is no CC up, and they give him an escape path opposite of the side of FLICKR. FLICKR's trailing all the way in the backwards, and Raiden shoves Forgiving into tower, and he says, okay, well, I'll just, Valkyrie over this wall, and then Candy Panda eats a whole lot of rock as he plants his face into that wall, misses his flash. Poorly executed play by SK Gaming on multiple fronts. Definitely not in sync, and Gambit, they come out ahead. First blood.
Look at the cost here, Crepo. Double the CS advantage for Betsy in the middle lane. More than double the CS advantage for Forgiven in the bottom lane. And first blood.
And no summoners either. And you can use this move once every 5 minutes. That's it, Q flash. And then headbutt backwards. And it doesn't work on a gap close AD carry because he'll just go back and... not sure if I like it. They should have just started fighting and then surprised Sven on the back because they had a ward on the left side and Sven snuck behind that. They had no idea that he was there over the Dragon Pit and they just gave Gambit the escape route.
So Gambit now have the wave shoving towards their half of the map. Gosu can sit back until he needs to push forward, but Candy continues to be punished with the CS. We did catch a very quick glimpse of Caboshot and Freddy in the top lane. Freddy's back to pick up a Ruby Crystal and Cloth Armor. Caboshot with an early pair of Ninja Tabite. Obviously going to help out against that Shyvana. But I'm looking forward to seeing how those teleport ganks impact the game.
Yeah, just look at Gosu Pepper right now, what he's doing as we see Diamond Prox going in for a return gank. Hex into knockup, good combo.
Fox gets turned into a Munchkin, he throws down the Ghost. Summoner spell used, however it is trading Ghost for Ignite.
Yeah, secondary summoner spells traded across the board. But you see Gosu Pepper constantly walking up, Humped with that stun, facilitating the CS for Forgiven against his early game Kalista, and he's at 52 CS already, and yeah, Svensk's here for a counter gank, but this only works if Forgiven Valkyrie's in. this Rumble cosplay for Equalizer. Otherwise, when Raid is looking for a pove on Eddie, but I don't know, Trev.
Appears you don't know a lot today. That's the pass back and forth here.
Alright, you tell me then.
Okay.
You know? You're gonna turn around, Mr. Sassy.
Alright, we'll see how Gambit continue to play this out. 7 minutes, 2,000 gold advantage, and massive CS leads in their mid and AD carry roles. No back from Candy Panda yet, but we do see Forgiven. He's picked himself up a Sheen in the makings of Phage. That's going to be a very, very scary Corki once he gets back into lane.
Faced with roughly 2,000 gold, picks up the Sheen and the components of a Phage. Now his poke will get augmented with an extra buffed up auto attack, and SK will have to play on the defensive. Level 6 though, the Kalistar bot lane can always turn anything around because Unbreakable will, regardless of how far you're behind, you will not die in that duration if you pop it early. And Kalista, she can get a lot of auto attacks in that rend is gonna be excruciating, so don't get too overzealous just yet. But there's still the exhaust, you know. Pepper's evening it out. While he goes aggressive with the Taric, he always has the exhaust ready for later in the game against the likes of Shyvana diving in. You know, for Vladimir, I like it. I think it's a smart choice overall. Neutralizing the bot lane, getting that Corki to level 6 safely, and then he can farm in any lane. We saw it yesterday. Corki can always range farm.
Something we have to highlight, Fox actually last picked this Vladimir. So he opted into this matchup, into the team composition. He's very far behind for the time being. We've only really seen that Vladimir shining when it's into the likes of Azir, but we do see Gambit, they've started an early Dragon with that armor buff from Gosu, Pepper, and Diamond.
However, being 20 CS down after getting 2 ganks on your lane is nothing unheard of. Yes, he was down a lot of CS early, but he equalized it right now, and he drew Diamond procs with the early Rek'Sai to mid lane twice. Slowed down the potential Dragon for Gambit. I feel like they could have taken this earlier with the lead they had in the mid and bot lane, so Fox definitely not doing too poorly here. Just needs to keep scaling.
Gambit, they get the Dragon faster than their seasonal average thus far. Not by a whole lot, a little bit over a minute. But neither of these teams have had extremely good Dragon control. We'll keep talking about that later as Diamond wants to set up for a dive. Teleport coming up.
Lane party.
He does have onslaughts of shadows, and Candy Panda's going to get caught up. He's going to lob and rated forward, and Candy Panda is gone. Gosu continues to tank up as Freddy is teleported in for the fight. Now Cabochard's in retreat. We do see Svenskeren coming to join. Body slams. He knocks Diamond under the tower, and the turret shot will close him out. Exhaust is now onto Freddy as SK continue to look forward. Gosu Pepper split from the rest of his team. Cabo not really swinging around those Blades of War. Saves the onslaughts away at the end of the fight, and then Rated gets felt, but he throws down the Unbreakable Will and stays alive. Svenskeren puts the big body back onto Cabochard, and Freddy is now running away, but Forgiven will pick up the kill. And it ends up trading back and forth. It's not over yet. As we see Diamond procs, can he find Sven? No! The Prey Seeker, but I think he spotted him. Tremor Sense means Svenskeren's in trouble. And a tunnel from Diamond should be one extra kill, maybe donated to Betsy.
Betsy walks in.
So unfortunate for Sven.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. Just don't move. You're dead if you move. If it hits you, so be it. Just don't ever move. And let's watch this again. So things I want to see here is Face Call, and I've seen it before. Just doesn't get used optimally. And Rated has 2 CC abilities that he wants to use. Now he has none. Gets thrown in, and by the time he comes out, Candy Pan is already dead. You can use 1 headbutt and 1 pulverize defensively. Yes, it's nitpicking. Gosu Pepper goes low here, flashes out, and Rated is about to flash in forward. Not quite sure what it achieves, but good knockup or knockback reader from Svenskeren. I like that a lot. He flashes in. I guess he's zoning Forgiven here, and then they turn on Gosu Pepper, so it's quite alright. Then it gets messy. Cabochard held his ulti all this time. It barely survives. Good Unbreakable Will here. Catches Forgiven off guard. Good turn from Svenskeren. Double kill for Freddy, but then Forgiven. Just that 1 extra shot. And he picked up 2 kills in the fight, and he's snowballing right now. 100 CS at the 11-minute mark. 2 kills, 1 assist. The better end of a bot lane party.
And a tower. A Dragon, a tower. Kill advantage, CS advantage. Everything is just going in favor of Gambit as we've crossed over 11 minutes.
And I feel like Forgiven betraying his roots here because he usually hates these type of bot lane parties because he even renamed his summoner name to Let Us 2v3 please. In addition to, can you please stop ganking my lane over and over again? But as we do talk about that, action in the top lane.
Well, we do see Shyvana trying to get away with that burnout, but the Dragon's Descent is not enough distance. And Freddy, the Wyvern, gets run down by FLICKR. And while that was going on, we did see Gosu actually caught up in the bottom lane, so that looks like it was a Fate's call.
Fate's call engaged with Svenskeren barreling through. A noble sacrifice from our Gem Lord. Fox is joining here. Mid tower is already down, so Fox has a little bit of time to move because his tier 2 is not under direct threat. However, Betsy moves to top. Let's watch this again. Combo onto Pepper, pulverize, and now you can use Fate's Call, in my opinion, to give extra damage here. And this is good timing here by the Gambit, or by the SK team rather. Svenskeren comes in, clears up the kill, but you see Candy Panda almost dies in the process. Triforce completed already for Forgiven. This is early. This is a 12-minute Triforce.
Well, if Candy Panda wasn't feeling the pain already, his Vamp Scepter
Into
Triforce is one hell of a big difference. We do see Fox still keeping himself relevant. That CS difference has been closing ever so slightly as Vlad is gaining levels, gaining power. But Betsy's already got himself a blasting one and that Athene, so got some utility, got some AP to play with, and it's going to be even more global gold as it looks like Gambit should secure the second tower, third tower of the game in a moment.
Yeah. And this is big. It seems like we've seen this a lot today. A lot of these teams at the 15-minute mark have these giant gold leads, all doing their best Origin impression, except Origin themselves, ironically. Right now, 5,000 gold lead almost. At this point in the game, that's a lot of money.
Wow, I've just heard from production and our stats guys, the last time Taric was played was in 2013 against All Authority versus SK. SK seemed to pull out the fabulous supports apparently. However, there's
desperate times.
More than 2 years apart.
Call for desperate measures. Or fabulous measures, if you may. But it's working.
Look at this. Fox is in trouble. He's sanguined already.
He has sustain.
A lot of hurt down, but very defensive early sanguine pull there from Fox.
Yeah, he has to get out. But this is a sustain matchup, a poke matchup. But at least Betsy has the pressure, and that's what it all matters. He can move to those fights on the side lanes quicker than Fox can. Svenskeren's trying to find an opening. Sveti is farming though, so that's the one saving grace, but it's gonna get rough because so much gold advantage. I can't stress this enough. 5,000 gold, 4,000 gold, that's a lot of money.
3 towers and a dragon with another one spawning in 15 seconds. And look at the Ring of Vision. Gambit have got tunnels, have got wards, have got pink wards. Even the minions are pushing SK back in the bottom half of the map. It looks like the Dragon should go Gambit's way because they've got all the ingredients for success.
Now we saw Gambit yesterday get a lead and have some issues closing. The lead wasn't as big at this point in the game as it was yesterday, so now they're farther ahead. Will we see the same, I wouldn't even call it a mistake, but the same hesitation from Gambit?
Yeah, hesitation and definitely trepidation in the way they approached their match yesterday against the Copenhagen Wolves. But for Gambit, this feels different. The decision-making from the players, the vision. I mean, Diamond has really made it very clear where he wants to be playing. You can just see how many tunnels lit to the map. If Cabochard's in trouble, tough luck. There's literally nobody that can get up there, but he's in a good position and he's just pushing the wave out.
Yeah, his team was winning teleported down and they picked up a couple of kills, solidifying his tiny lead in the top lane. Has the home guards and the Triforce completed. It's another power spike. So Gambit, they're hitting power spikes left, right, and center, and they need to translate this into an advantage. Will SK fight this dragon? I wouldn't. It was SK when it comes up again. But they almost have to.
Something else I also want to highlight here, Crepper. Both Cabochard and Betsy have upgraded their trinkets already to those greater stealth totems. Contrast to nobody on the side of SK. So all of that warding Gambit has been using has worked out. They've had pretty good information to play with. And it looks like they're going to have the tools to keep that up, as it looks like Freddy's going towards a Blade of the Rune King, potentially as his first item.
Now where is Forgiven going to go? Candy Panda taking his time with pushing out the bot lane. This frees up the 80 carry resource for Gambit. And Corki's really good in these poke siege situations in the early to mid game because his rocket poke is paramount to getting that advantage, getting that zone control to push people off the tower, get another objective, translate that into deep vision, plan ahead, What's your next step? Always look ahead. And Candy Panda is almost like freezing the bot lane, slowly pushing it out. Now has to base. Doesn't want to base because he wants to push out that lane. And
Well, this happened to Candy Panda yesterday against H2K, and that just allowed H2K to engage on SK whenever there was a numbers disadvantage. You can see, look at the wards.
But are they going to use it?
That's the question.
Step 1 is getting the vision. Step 2 is using it. So are we going to see a mid push rotation top? Poke in the mid lane? What's Gambit going to do here?
Looks to be mid push, rotation top, as you've predicted, Crepo. Freddy's going to be in trouble.
He wants to clear the wave. That's his main job right now, clearing that wave.
Well, he's got a Centaur to deal with it. He's putting a lot of damage down onto Cabo Shot. The rest of Gambit have responded. So Freddy's going to be careful. Eats a phosphorus bomb, but look at the minion wave. It's now starting to conga line in. Gambit, they've got good wave clear. And SK, all of it's pretty low range. They've got to be careful if Gambit commits to this.
Yeah, they missed their timing. They didn't stack any waves, so double barrel and some damage from Fox clears it out. And Gambit is posturing for a dive, but the next wave is still 15 seconds out. They sent down Cabochard to the bot lane. They're swapping it up. Yeah, they need to hit multiple pressure points and then start rotating. Bot to mid, top back to mid, and eventually group up with Cabochard. If they play their cards right, I can see Gambit getting the tier 2 tower on bottom actually. Just keep SK locked in here and then move away eventually. Just don't drop any casualties along the way.
Keep your eyes on that mini-map. Cabochard is pushing out that bottom wave. Forgiven is pushing in the middle wave. Betsy with the help of Gosu Pepper top. So this is an assault on all fronts on behalf of SK. And they seem to be clearing the waves for the time being, but you can see Cabo's now left bottom as Freddy came to meet him.
5,000 gold lead still for Gambit. Makes you wonder how would they do this if they didn't have this advantage. They're slowly chipping away at the towers. We're going in!
Wow, we see that's Diamond. He's caught out. Diamond's down. And Rated flashed for that one. I can only assume for the headbutt pulverize. Kill credit to Candy Panda.
Yeah, and this stops the bleeding. This slows the game down yet again, and Gambit caught in rotation. Svenskern down, or Freddy down in the bottom lane right now. He's gonna push that out. They held down. Fox managed to chunk out Forgiving enough to stop him from hitting the towers. No extra tower went down. It's too early for Baron Bates. However, Gambit have 2 dragons. We're a minute and 40 seconds away from the third, and we could see a potential explosive fight right there because that gives you extra movement speed and that facilitates those rotations, those map-wide plays. And meanwhile, Candy Panda is still only on that BT. Look how long it takes for him to finish that Krug.
Luckily sitting on 1,000 gold, so should be able to pick up a little bit more attack speed on this rotation. We did see the Blade of the Rune King picked up for Freddy and some Giant's Belts on the side of SK. But truthfully, still 4,000 gold down at the 20-minute mark. And SK looking for a advantageous position. Diamond's going to run into the jungle, find Freddy out. So Dragon in a minute. You can see Cabo's pushed the wave out. He's got teleport to play with.
And they want to steal this red buff. That's what you want to do. You want to deny resources to your opponent. If you can't get the towers, take their jungle. Slowly make them bleed gold. Freddy's getting poked.
Well, red buff is still up there. It looks like it was secured by Diamond and the smite. Freddy's gonna Dragon's descent, but the knockup comes up from Diamond. He manages to find him, and Betsy gets a kill credit. There's the onslaught of shadows, throws in Rated back into the waiting arms of Gosu Pepper, but Candy says, come and hug me. Pulls him out with Fate's Call. And SK turn around. It doesn't look like we're done just yet. SK are 1 man down, but here comes Diamond once again. He flashes in, and he takes down the Minotaur. We see the Hemo Plague sucking out the blood from Diamond Prox as Gambit now back away. Initially, Gambit get the kill, but they trade 1 for 1 in the follow-up fights.
Again, miscommunication by SK. Freddy's trying to defend that red buff without smite of his own. He has to yield eventually, dies to the double knockup threat from Rek'Sai Lu. Svenskern here, for a bit too deep, has to flash. And as well, Unrated and Candy Panda still not in sync. Unbreakable Will and Fate's Call used. Double disengage tools, you have to spread them out. You can't use them at the same time.
So this time round, ends up costing them some control in the mid lane. Gambit burned a lot of cooldowns. There's a wave pushing towards them, but it looks like they've started this dragon off. Here's a replay of that fight.
Freddy wants to stop that. He's going to get interrupted if it's not by Diamond Prox popping up. It might be by Betsy just hexing him, slowing him, knocking him up. And Rated pops Unbreakable Will, and then gets Fate's Call out. But meanwhile, another bout.
So Dragon was not secured.
Not yet.
Look at the cooldown timers on the left and right of your screen. Chemo Plague not up for Vladimir, nor Unbreakable Will for Unrated, but it's close. Gambit, on the other hand, they're only missing the Radiance from Taric, and Cabochard should have Onslaught soon. It's ticking away. Dragon down to 3,000 hit points. Unbreakable Will used quite early, I feel, from Unrated. Gambit do not actually commit.
Look at the top wave. Look at the mid lane as well. Gambit in full control right here.
Looks like SK have opted not to take this fight. They have backed away. Gambit looking for a fight. Onslaught of Shadows could be used
Go
if
mid,
Cabochard
Gambit.
wanted to.
Just go mid and take that tower.
Decided against it. Well, I'll take that back. They have pushed down. Look at the top lane. Minions doing work. Gambit's champions doing work in the middle lane. And Dragon still unsecured, so they could peel back for that one.
Fantastic map-wide play by Gambit right here. Pepper with the dazzle.
Explosive cast knocks Gosu Pepper into the waiting hands of Fox. We see Svenskeren is going to be running amok as he's found Diamond Procs. All of a sudden, Gambit, they are the ones that get a little split up. So they've lost 2 champions for securing 2 towers and potentially the Dragon.
Gambit had a lot of options there, and they seem to want to take them all at once. Part of the team went top lane. Pepper split him down to the bottom. He got caught by Fox. There wasn't enough backup. Top tower was already falling in. At 2 dragons on the mark, having those minion waves pushing into mid lane and top lane, I felt like Gambit should have moved for the middle lane and peel back together as a team for the Dragon. They failed to do so. Give SK some breathing room, but the gold lead still 5.5k.
Is this actually happening? There's no vision
it
here
is.
from SK. Look at the vision. You can see Enrated moving to ward it up. You have to
Rek'Sai
feel
Scream
once that
usually prompts that Baron start.
ward goes down. SK are now aware of it, but Gambit, they've not peeled off this crap, but it's going very, very slowly. Look at the minimap, guys. Tower secured in favor of SK. Freddy has been caught out. He's been knocked up, and Cabochard is rampaging all over Freddy's face. Forgiven's valked over the wall and flashed rather. Enrated's going to get eventually cut down where he stands once Unbreakable wears off. Baron was prevented, but Gambit get a few more kills onto their belt.
Yeah, and Gambit speeding up this game now. Another 2 kills. And this is, well, while you might hesitate with a gold lead to get those tier 2 towers, that can be rough. Eventually, if you keep that style on and you keep deep warding, Baron Bay becomes an extra variable that SK will have to deal with, and they don't have the resources to, you know, to cover all these holes. Their boat is sinking, and they had a couple of fingers they could place in every hole to stop the water from flowing in, but now another hole appeared in the form of that Baron, and we're going down.
Never heard of that before. The rift being referred to as
It's flooding.
It's
flooding
flooding.
with the tears of SK Gaming. And they try and catch on. 6,000 gold lead right now for Gambit.
Down 4 towers, down a dragon, down a kill. Again, warding from Gambit is good. But you could probably put an argument forward for maybe over-warding. I can't believe I'm actually using those words, but look at the vision. Almost every time you look down, Gambit have got between 5 and 6 wards in SK's jungle, which is fantastic. It's allowing them control.
I don't think it's necessarily over-warding. I just think it's not using them efficiently. And it's very easy for us to spot that sitting here. I mean, many critics have said the same things for when I was playing. Like, you have those wards, why aren't you using them? Because it's hard, because there's so much chaos. It's hard to communicate as a team. Gambit shot calling yesterday looked very meek. But right now, it's a lot better. They have the right ideas. Eventually, I'll pronounce that word right.
Well, we'll get there eventually, Crepo. But take a look at the items really quickly. Death Cap was picked up for Betsy. Fox got a needlessly large rod and Negatrung. Frozen Heart for Cabochard. Blade of the Ruined King for Forgiven. So a few big item spikes. I like the fact that Diamond's also got that locket. Help prevent some of the burst from Fox's Vlad.
All right, crucial point in the game. They denied the vision around the Baron. They're going to push in mid lane one more time. Fight or peel back for a Baron bait.
Let's find out. Freddy's got full rage bar. He's going to be able to engage if he wants to. Cabochard holds on to the onslaught of shadows. He's been doing that all game long, and they've got the unbreakable will once more. And rated very quick on the trigger finger. The last 2 or 3 times we've seen that being used, and Gambit peel away.
Gambit do have darkness on their side. They decide not to bait. They leave Forgiving in the mid lane to distract their opponents, but Cabochard in the bot lane, I feel it's too much. Gambit again, they want too much at once. They can't punish the face check because they were doing Baron. They have one member in the bot lane, they have one member in the mid lane. Decide what you want to do. You can do a 4-man Baron and have one guy pushing the mid lane, but then you need deeper vision. You need to make SK scared of face checking every rush in a row. However, it's still the right idea. They're on the right track, and eventually, let's screw up that word yet again as you gaze upon me. Stop looking at me like that. I can't help it.
I was trying to do it subtly. Take a look at your picture-in-picture, bottom left. Cabo Shard is teleporting in. He's in the tri-bush up north. Freddy has equaled that by coming in. Diamond Prox has found the knock-up onto Freddy. Candy Panda a little bit split up from the team as SKR landed in the river. The ship is sinking and we see Fate's call. It's going to pull and rate it backwards. He's got no unbreakable will. We do see Fox and Hemoplague's pop, but Freddy is continuing to take damage. He may be going down, not yet though, as the face of the mountain shield will keep him up. Diamond and Forgiven looking to run SK down. Svenskeren now follows suit with Enrated into the death chamber. And after a drawn-out bout, Gambit find 2 and go back to Baron.
So much chaos in these fights, but Gambit is simply too tanky. None of their members fall down, and eventually SK will have to yield. Unbreakable Will wasn't up in that fight, so Enrated had to sacrifice himself for his team. Svenskeren's down, no more smite. Should be a Baron pickup, and this should snowball the game. This should facilitate those things that Gambit was trying earlier. Now it'll be a lot easier because you have a lot of buddies with you in sense of buffed up minions.
Just shy of 10,000 gold in the lead. First Baron picked up here today for Gambit. You see, leading up to last week on the graphic, a lot earlier than beforehand. But that was about the 3rd or the 4th attempt that Gambit really felt they needed. The sort of rotational push backfired. And they set their sights on Baron. Look at those CS advantages again. Top lane, Cabo Shard, not only has he got the global objectives on his side, but a bunch of CS. And that's mirrored by Forgiven versus Candy Panda.
Yeah, this has to feel good for the Gambit members. Down in the standings, issues adapting to the new split, but looking to get another win on the board. And SK, they came out in their press conference and they said, we need time to adapt. We need time to fix, go back to our old play style. But is it old or is it just too antique at this point? And can they play it well enough? Because they're looking 0-6 right now.
That's the way it's looking. Gambit, if they close this game out, they will be on a 2-game winning streak from the week. From week 3, rather. And of course, when you're 1/3 of the way through the split, it's a very, very big mountain to climb from 0-6. But Gambit still have to knock down the Nexus. It took
them a while
yesterday. However, they do have a significantly more impressive lead today. They also have Baron, and you can see Cabo's pushing top, the rest of Gambit pushing bottom.
Now let's take a step back and see how did Gambit get into this position. Usually we see Diamond Prox aiding Cabo Shard to get him fed, and that was a strategy. Then we wondered, is Diamond Prox going to assist Forgiven? Wasn't a question either. He just helped Betsy get pressure in the mid lane. They kept Fox down. Fox even said in those interviews, I don't have enough pressure. I feel I can't influence the game anymore. And Gambit preyed upon that Fox. Pressured him in, and then translated that with some rotations. Yes, they got caught a couple of times, but they had good IDs. They were taking 1 or 2 steps ahead of the curve and definitely outsmarting SK.
Take a look at this Baron buff, Crepper. They've already taken the inner turret on the bottom lane. They put pressure on the inhibitor turret as we hit 30 minutes. And Gambit are just using the buff very appropriately. Again, the minimap is littered with vision.
They have to get an inhibitor though. That's what you want. The Baron buff at this point in the game with this big of a gold lead, you need to get something out of it. More than just some tier 2 towers.
I'm really not convinced by the Shyvana from Freddy yet. It was a second rotation picked with the Callista. And we've not really seen it do a whole lot. Yes, SK have fallen behind from an early stage, so that limits the aggressive potential that a Freddy can put on the map. But he's just being pushed around by Cabo Shard. Really not having an impact. Fox!
Dazzle forces the pull.
He's going to go down with
That's the tower. This is the opening Gambit wants.
So let's see if Gambit can get out cleanly. Doesn't seem to be engaged yet from SK. Sanguine pull 3 seconds before it's available. Diamond and Forgiven putting some auto attacks onto the inhibitor. It's going low. It will take a few more hits. Svenskeren's gone in with a body slam, but doesn't manage to throw down the cask. Onslaught of Shadows comes out, and Sven's down before he can even ultimate. Inhibitor will drop. And SK with really disconnected defense lose their base inhibitor.
Yeah, very often you see a team make a panic play here to defend that inhibitor. A Hail Mary, if I may. But SK, a couple of their members wanted to go in, and the rest wasn't really in sync. As you say, disconnected, and you can't afford to be disconnected as a team at this point in the split. they have any hopes to make it to playoffs.
Definition of effective use of Baron buff. Multiple towers, kills, and they've cracked open the base. It's going to allow Gambit an uncontested third dragon.
Full Khaleesi.
And this is entirely up to Gambit to close this game out now. Can spend some of that money. If we look at the gold, you can see everybody's around 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 gold to spend. So everybody's going to come back with these big power spikes, as you'll see those pickups. Randuins for Diamond, a BF Sword for Cabochard, Last Whisper for Forgiven. And SK will be asking for forgiveness for kicking Forgiven.
And you talk about all these items, but you forget the most important one. Face of the Mountain on our Gem Knight, Taric. GoSuPepper 0-3 in 10 right now.
What do you think of the Taric so far? I mean, in the context of how the game has played out, the Dazzle, locked down a few targets, set up a few plays.
I will hold my judgment.
That's fair.
I will see if this Taric becomes a staple meta pick. Back from the shadows where he's lurking, sharpening his diamonds.
I want to quote something Enrated actually said from the press conference yesterday. One of the questions was related to if Enrated will pull out some fun picks like he did in the Spring Split. And Enrated's response was that until the basics and the foundations are locked down, he feels he'd rather stick to the traditional picks. Obviously, GoSuPepper went against that theory today, and Freddy and Fox, they've been looking for some different champions. They've been struggling to adapt, even Svenskeren in some ways.
Now it's always the question, are people picking different picks out of creativity or out of necessity? Are they limited in their champions pool to the point where they have to pick off-meta picks that are technically inferior? Or are they actually trying to curveball? We've seen the unicorns throw out those off-meta picks often to their advantage, but...
Even then, it wasn't a big deal. I think in week 1 or week 2, the top lane Nocturne, we do see Diamond, he's got knocked backwards. Svenskeren calling out Mary once more, and Diamond just laughs it off.
Yeah, but Cabochard is doing a blue buff on the bottom, so they have to hold their horses here and wait for the cavalry to arrive. Just don't use too much of your ammunition on that top tower. Just wait for Cabochard to get to the bot lane. Effectively split pushing. You can wait 30 more seconds. You waited 34 minutes, Gambit. You can wait a little longer. Betsy jukes it, but Forgiven goes in.
Wow, there's the wild growth already onto Forgiven. Svenskeren dashes forward with Dragon's Descent and a Valkyrie away. We'll put that cosplay equalizer down on the ground. Now GoSuPepper's running, but look at Cabochard. He's going to grab another inhibitor, and if it's at the cost of GoSuPepper's life, that is a fair trade any day of the week. Super minions will now be pouring through the bottom lane. As SK's engaged, nets them a kill. Now Cabochard a little bit in trouble.
GoSuPepper, the hero Gambit needed and deserved. He trades his life willingly for a bot lane inhib here, and a Forgiven, he wants some blooded. Kills his ex-teammate, wants another one.
Fox flashed forward for that one, as Cabochard cleans up Enrated. It's a little while before that inhib spawns, but now with 2 members down, Gambit on the top lane.
1 inhib, 2 inhibs. Gambit, they want their third.
They should be able to grab this one. SK not doing a whole lot. Onslaught of Shadows goes, I think, a little wide of Candy Panda, but Cabochard is just rampaging through. He 1v1s Candy Panda like a hot knife through butter. Freddy tries to fly away, but those wings don't have anything under them. And Freddy goes down for the 5th time. The 3rd inhibitor falls. Gambit set their sights on the Nexus turret, and they want to go 2-0 in week 3. 8, 1, and 5. For Cabochard. And that started it all off. Gambit undefeated. SK 0-6. Convincing victory from Gambit.
Quick, clean, polished. I was talking about Taric. Oh yeah, and the victory for Gambit was nice too. Nah, it looked alright. I'm not quite sold on the Taric pick just yet, but I think it did what it had to do. It kept Candy Panda down. Traditionally the best performing member on the SK Gaming roster so far. And he was down 30 CS against Forgiven and Edward here in the bottom lane. So they did what they had to do. Forgiven died a lot so far in this split, but 0 deaths against his old SK.
Very well played. Most damage dealt in the game, and I feel a little bad, but I do feel I have to call this one out. During the course of this game again, Candy Panda dealt less damage than his jungler. Svenskjern's Gragas dealt more damage to champions by about 600. Vladimir, Shyvana, both dealt more damage. It feels like Candy Panda is being shut out. Yesterday, it was Twisted Fate Annie. Today, it was Tariq Hecarim. Yes, there is focus on him. We have to always keep that in mind. But not finding success with their new old AD carry.
Yeah, there's a vast difference with playing Kalista from ahead, like Freeze showed us, and Kalista from behind. It's really hard to do so, but what worries me more is these little instances of just miscommunications, disconnection in the SK lineup. And if go to the other side, remember they lost Forgiven. 2 victories right now, both on Corki.
Corki, go figure.
Go back in time. Say you're in Spring Split, around in the middle, just a little farther, just to say week 6, and you're going, yes, next split, Forgiven will play for Gambit. All right, maybe, I can believe it. And he will go on a winning streak, okay, with Corki.
Yep, and using Corki against SK, a team that he did not play it with. So that wraps up the game. An undefeated week for Gambit, and for a closer look at their second summer win, we're going to head over to the analyst desk.
Yeah, there we go. Gambit undefeated in week 3. And, well, they touched on the Corki already on the side of Forgiven, but when the picks and bans came out, especially that last rotation from Gambit, okay, everything looks kind of standard. Boom! Tariq, which we both kind of frowned upon seeing it coming out.
It was kind of strange. I thought it was like a visual bug on the on the champion select or something, but Tariq came in. But it feels like it did kind of good against the Kalista, good to set up ganks, and I think the thought process is, you'll be useless later, and I'll take you with me, Kalista. That is like the thought process, because if Kalista does a snowball, she doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, and break that down maybe a little bit more. We had the Alistar Kalista, and traditionally, I said as well, Candy Panda has had very good early game runs on that Kalista, but also Forgiven and Gosu Pepper working together as that Corki Tariq lane. I would forget it, we don't see him that often in that.
I think the gank that came in from Diamond Prox was very well timed. He got the Rek'Sai, which was kind of surprising. He doesn't play a lot of strong junglers, and he got this possibly the strongest early game jungler in the game. And he punished the bot lane, and like it's perfect to do it against the Kalista bot lane, because it really scales poorly into the late game.
Well, as you mentioned, they got the first blood that way. We're actually going to get a replay up on the screen from a little bit further, which was a tower dive, I do believe, from Gambit coming out.
I think this particular replay, what I'm thinking is it kind of highlights everything about the game. It's kind of messy. It also shows that Hecarim has this dominance in top lane, TP is in first, and also the fact that Gambit's bot lane is dominant in the bot lane. So they set up this dive, and we see Svenskjern is coming in. He's kind of the shining light of SK. As the guys at the desk, at the casting desk said, he's had more damage than the Kalista, and we can clearly see that he's doing a lot of work in this fight. And also the fact that Gambit are coming out ahead after this fight also shows that they're kind of the stronger team in this matchup, simply because they're stronger bot lane and also stronger in the top lane. And we see Gambit Unforgiven, like, he's doing well with the Corki, and they kind of clean up the fight. Kind of sad that Svenskjern dies in the end, but I don't think there's much more to say about this replay. But it kind of highlights everything about the game.
Yeah, I think we were gonna fast forward a little bit. Another kill comes out in the end there. We saw Shyvana dying there. Shyvana is actually getting buffed on 5.11. That's not the patch that they are playing on this one, so it was kind of weird seeing it return.
It was kind of strange, like blind picking it. There was a lot of good picks that are good into it, and especially the Hecarim. It scales better, does better in lane with the Ignite, and especially no smite on the Shyvana. That is usually the case. That the mindset is Shyvana is going to take jungle camps, keep pushing, take the ground from the enemy team, and keep creating like an advantage for herself. But against the Hecarim with Ignite, that's not going to happen. And Hecarim does so much more in the mid game, in the late game than Shyvana. She just jumps in and she just tries to hit things, but Lulu slows her down and she does nothing.
Yeah, maybe he thought that Cabochard was going to go for the Gragas top lane again, but it wasn't true. It was the crazy pony. From the side of Gambit, though, they built that advantage up quite early. They did well in that. I actually thought they were going to go off much quicker. They actually took on the mid game and did pretty well, in my opinion. They went and they pushed all 3 lanes, but then it kind of slowed down again for them, which reminded me of the game yesterday, but it's to be expected.
It is kind of, I can see a lot of progress, which, like, Rome wasn't built in a day. That's what they say. And comparing the Gambit this week to the other week, I think the coach is doing a lot of good work.
Yeah, it also must take some time for a coach to get in there as well, as you know very well.
Yes.
And then finally, SK Gaming, well, another really bad week for them. What to you as a coach and looking at team are the most glaring things they have to change right now?
I feel there are clearly weaknesses in their, like, I think mid lane hasn't really adapted. You could see in the game he was always behind Fox in a matchup that should be very, like, I always call
Behind
these kind
Betsy?
of matchup behind Betsy, yeah. Sorry, like this is like a potato matchup, and Vladimir should eventually win, and it didn't happen, and he was always behind the Lulu when it came to roaming, and it kind of was disappointing in a way, and I think they have a lot of work to do.
Well, we'll see. No more potato matchups, maybe some fries matchups there for Fox. Thank you so much. There's just one match left to play out in the European LCS today, and it's our game of the week between the Unicorns of Love and H2K for just one win apart in the standings. Don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.
How well does SK know Forgiven? And how well does Forgiven knows SK?
The end of the fight, and then Rated gets bounced, but he throws down the Unbreakable Will and stays alive. FLICKR puts the big body back onto Camo Shot. We see Fate's Call. It's going to pull in Rated backwards. He's got no Unbreakable Will. We do see Fox and Hemoplague's pop, but Freddy is continuing to take damage. Onslaught of Shadows goes, I think, a little wide of Candy Panda, but Camo Shot is just rampaging through. He 1v1s Candy Panda like a hot knife through butter. Gambit undefeated. SK 0-6.